Have you ever felt like you needed to do something, even if it seemed a little crazy, to process a difficult event? Something a little out there.
Yeah.
Today we're diving into Prince Harry's memoir, Spare,
Okay.
and a Reddit thread that's discussing it to explore his attempt to find closure after his mother, Princess Diana's death.
It's a fascinating look at how personal grief plays out under the spotlight of global attention.
Right. Like, for those who might not remember all the details, Princess Diana tragically died in a car crash in Paris in 1997.
Yeah.
Harry was only 12 years old at this time.
He's so young.
Fast forward to 2007, and he's back in Paris for the Rugby World Cup.
Okay.
Still wrestling with that loss.
Yeah, you can imagine.
Yeah.
The memoir recounts how he becomes fixated on the Pont tunnel.
Right?
It's the site of the accident.
Yeah.
It had become a pilgrimage for mourners.
Yeah.
But also attracted a lot of morbid curiosity.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That kind of duality is often at play with public tragedies, isn't it?
Absolutely. Harry mentions all the conflicting media reports about the crash, particularly the car's speed.
Right.
Initially, there were claims it was going over 100 miles per hour, but police later determined it was closer to 65.
Oh, wow.
And that detail becomes crucial for Harry.
He asks his driver to take him through the tunnel at that exact speed, 65 miles per hour.
Really?
He's trying to bridge that gap between, the abstract knowledge of what happened and actually experiencing it, even if just for a fleeting moment.
He describes it as needing to understand his mother's final moments.
Wow.
Almost like a subconscious act of reenactment, which is something trauma survivors sometimes do to try and reclaim a sense of control.
Exactly. It's this deeply human need to make sense of the senseless.
Yeah.
To find some semblance of order in the chaos of loss.
So he's in the car speeding through the tunnel, the orange lights flashing by.
Right.
The concrete pillars rushing past. He's even counting his heartbeats, trying to match his physical sensations to what he imagines his mother might have felt.
And he's expecting something.
Yeah.
Some visceral, profound revelation.
Right.
He describes always picturing it as this treacherous, almost inherently dangerous passage.
But then it's just a tunnel.
What?
Short, simple, nothing remarkable about it. He even thinks to himself, no reason anyone should ever die inside it.
Wow.
The ordinariness of it is almost jarring compared to the weight of the tragedy.
It's a moment of disillusionment. The tunnel, stripped of the narrative he'd built up in his mind, is just infrastructure.
Right.
And his companions, his driver and bodyguard, are completely silent.
Wow.
Their presence doesn't offer him any comfort. Just this stark reminder of his isolation in that moment.
And that lack of catharsis is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
The ride doesn't bring him the closure he was hoping for.
Right.
He even calls the decision uniquely ill-conceived.
But what's fascinating is that the experience doesn't lessen his grief.
Right.
It actually intensifies it.
Oh, wow.
It cements the reality of her death in a way nothing else has.
Really?
He describes it as the night all doubt fell away.
Yeah.
It's like, in trying to confront his grief head on, he inadvertently rips open the wound even further.
And this whole time, he's under the microscope of public scrutiny. Can you imagine trying to process such a profound loss?
It's got to be hard.
With the whole world watching and judging your every move.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's like, how are you supposed to cope?
Right.
It really makes you think about the unique pressures faced by public figures.
Absolutely.
Especially royals.
Yeah, the grief isn't just personal. It's a public spectacle.
And that leads us to the Reddit reactions.
Oh, yeah.
Which are pretty revealing. While Harry found the tunnel experience disappointing, it sparked a huge conversation online about how we process grief, especially when it involves those in the public eye.
Okay.
One Reddit user who lost their father a year ago shared that they drive past their childhood home every day. Oh, wow.
Even though it's no longer their family's?
Okay.
They wrote, logically, I know it won't bring him back.
Yeah.
There's this pull at pull I can't explain.
Right.
Does this resonate with Harry's tunnel experience?
Absolutely.
Right.
It's both our attempts to create a tangible connection to the deceased.
Yeah.
To bridge the gap between the physical and emotional absence.
Right.
Even if it doesn't provide the expected closure, the act itself holds meaning.
There's a lot of empathy in the thread for Harry people.
Yeah.
Recognizing that grief can manifest in unconventional ways.
Right.
But there's also criticism and some questioning his motives, calling it attention-seeking or reckless endangerment of his driver.
It's interesting how we often project our own beliefs about what's appropriate grief onto others.
Right.
Some comments focus on the logistics, like why didn't he drive himself?
Uh-huh.
Was it safe?
Yeah.
But they overlook the reality of his position
Right.
as a high-profile royal.
Mm-hmm.
His actions are dictated by security protocols.
Not personal preference.
Someone even called him a cockwomble,
Oh, my.
which, while harsh, highlights that not everyone is on board with his approach to grieving.
Right.
It speaks to the double-edged sword of public life.
Yeah.
You're simultaneously revered and scrutinized your actions, both celebrated and condemned.
It brings up another thread in the Reddit discussion, the lack of a clearly defined role for the spare. The younger sibling not destined for the throne.
Right. Several users pointed out that this might contribute to Harry's search for meaning and purpose.
Makes sense.
It's almost as if, in the absence of a prescribed path, he's trying to forge his own identity.
Right.
Even if it means pushing boundaries and challenging expectations.
It's a pattern we often see, even outside of royalty.
Yeah.
Younger siblings, especially those following in the footsteps
Yeah.
of high-achieving older siblings, can struggle to define their own space and purpose.
For sure.
In Harry's case, that struggle is magnified by the loss of his mother
Right.
and the constant media attention.
It's a poignant reminder that privilege doesn't insulate you from the challenges of identity formation.
Absolutely.
Or the complexities of grief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Reddit thread really highlights how public figures, especially royals, are held to a different standard when it comes to expressing emotions.
Right.
It's as though they're expected to grieve in a way that's palatable for public consumption.
Absolutely. One comment pointed out how people criticize Harry for not driving himself, completely overlooking the strict security protocols he lives under.
Yeah. We forget that those in such high-profile positions often have limited autonomy over even the most mundane aspects of their lives.
And it's a valuable reminder that what we see in the media is just a sliver of the story.
It really is.
There's a whole world of complexities and nuances that we're often not privy to.
It underscores the importance of approaching these stories with a sense of empathy and understanding, recognizing that we're often only seeing the tip of the iceberg.
This whole deep dive has been a real eye-opener in terms of the pressure cooker environment that royals live in. Every decision, every emotion is analyzed and judged.
For sure.
Yeah.
It must be incredibly difficult to navigate.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when dealing with something as personal as grief.
It's a stark reminder that fame and privilege don't shield you from the complexities of human emotion. In fact, they can often amplify them.
Definitely. And in Harry's case, it seems like the very act of seeking closure, of trying to find meaning in his mother's death, was met with this whirlwind of both empathy and criticism. It's like he can't win no matter what he does.
Yeah, it really does feel that way. Before we wrap up this deep dive, I'd love to hear your biggest takeaways.
Okay.
What stood out to you the most in Harry's story?
Well, the sheer complexity of grief, for sure. It's not a linear process.
Yeah.
You know, with a clear end point.
Yeah.
Harry's experience shows how it can manifest in unexpected ways and
Yeah.
drive us to actions that might seem illogical or even counterproductive to outsiders.
And those actions become even more magnified when you're constantly under the public gaze.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
It raises questions about how we as a society perceive and judge expressions of grief, especially when it comes to those in the public eye.
Right.
Are we allowing them the space to grieve authentically, or are we imposing our own expectations and judgments on their process?
It's a really good point. We've been diving deep into Harry's personal experience.
Right.
But this whole conversation has broader implications for how we approach grief and healing in general.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to healing.
Right.
What might bring comfort or closure to one person might be completely ineffective or even harmful to another.
And it underscores the importance of empathy and understanding.
Right.
We can't presume to know what another person is going through.
For sure.
Or judge their coping mechanisms based on our own experiences.
It's about recognizing that grief is a deeply personal journey. Right. And everyone's path will be unique.
Exactly. And those individual journeys deserve to be met with compassion and support, not judgment and scrutiny.
Absolutely.
So for our listener out there, we want to leave you with a thought-provoking question.
Okay.
If you were in Harry's shoes 10 years after your mother's tragic death, what do you think would have brought you a sense of peace?
That's a powerful question to ponder. What actions, what experiences might help integrate such a profound loss into your life.
Right.
And allow you to move forward.
Maybe it's something similar to Harry's tunnel experience, or maybe it's something entirely different.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong answer.
Right.
But it's a question worth exploring within ourselves.
Absolutely. And we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
Share your personal reflections, your own experiences with grief and healing on our social media channels or through email.
Yeah.
We're always eager to hear from our listeners and learn from your perspectives.
You can find all the details in the show notes. And even though this deep dive is ending, remember that the conversation about grief and healing continues.
Yes.
It's an ongoing process, both individually and collectively.
And it's a conversation that deserves our attention, our compassion, and our willingness to listen and learn from each other.
Beautifully said. So as we sign off, we want to leave you with this.
Okay.
Closure might be a complex and elusive concept,
right?
But the pursuit of healing and meaning in the face of loss is a journey worth taking.
Absolutely. Be kind to yourselves, be kind to others,
and
keep those conversations going. Until next time, happy diving.